factors to explain their conduct. There's nothing explaining Donald Trump's conduct. They're going around because they have no redeemability in this man. Um, the bad guy here is him. So they can't point to the Democrats in their case. I don't know what this would be the ultimate of hypocrisy for this hearing to end up with a not guilty verdict. And I don't know what this country is going to do with it. It just, maybe Lindsey Graham has come to his senses this morning when he voted that they should have witnesses testify. Because I don't see how you can ask a person to respect the law in the face of this overwhelming evidence against Donald Trump. And if we don't show the respect for the law for everybody.
I agree. And Vanita, can you talk to the harm that is doing to our country worldwide for us to be the ones who are who is leading a democracy throughout the planet, allegedly? How does this look to the world? Do we lose our moral authority, Vanita Banks, for if this man is not convicted when the whole world saw the evidence that was shown?
Well, thank you, John. I believe that we lost our moral authority as the world has looked on in horror over the last 4 years, in so many numbers of ways, in so many ways. And I believe that this Senate proceeding that we witnessed last week is one of the most important, if not the most important legal proceeding in our democracy. We saw a brilliant team and diverse team, as Attorney Lee stated, of managers present a brilliant case. It was striking that there were no physical witnesses called, but the witnesses were present, right? Including the president and his supporters, including rioters and criminals. They're all on videotape, right? And they clearly testified that they were there at the invitation of the former president. We saw, I had stated many years ago, before the 2016 election, when there were 17 candidates for 17 GOP presidential candidates. And, you know, initially I thought, and I think most of America thought, that the former president's chances was really a serious long shot. And then we watched one by one all of those 16 candidates fall by the wayside. And we began to hear, you know, as he announced his candidacy, I remember him coming down on the elevator, or the escalator. And, you know, initially starting out with, you know, inflammatory comments regarding various races of people. And so it never stopped. And from that beginning, I was asking myself the question, you know, who is going to bring the former president down? And not in a physical way. You saw the attorney for the defense, you know, showing 9 minutes out of context, right, of various Democratic leaders talking about being in a fight, right? And so I just kept asking myself, you know, as, you know, each and every, you know, inflammatory comment, every tweet, undemocratic action was uttered, what is going to ultimately bring it into this? And I would say, you know, bring this candidate down. And you know what I said from the very beginning? His own words. And that's what we're seeing. Last week, we're seeing his own words, whether it's ignorance or arrogance, that I think is going to ultimately address this issue. And our democracy is still on a lifeline, but I believe that regardless of what the ultimate decision is, because I'm not sure at this juncture that we're going to get 17 Republicans to agree, but this point had to be made. This hearing had to be held for the world to watch, John, because there needs to be education of the American public. They need to see this. There needs to be at least the attempt to hold this president accountable before we can move forward.
Let me address.
Wait, let me point out one quick thing here. Attorney Milton Grimes, when we started to show off, he talked about the fact that recently the Senate just voted to call witnesses. Now, this is a very important development that Attorney Grimes pointed out. Let me tell you what occurred. The Senate, with a vote of 55 to 45, agreed to allow witnesses. But here's what caused that. There was a statement by Republican representative from Washington, Jamie Butler. She said that Representative, the minority leader, Kevin McCarthy, told her on last Friday, that Trump told him that he was called Trump during the riot, begging for help. And Trump rejected sending help to Kevin McCarthy, who is the minority leader. So it had to do with the fact that they want to take the statement of Kevin McCarthy to find out what conversation he had with Trump, because he's already on record telling another representative that Trump basically told him to go to hell, and that so now we got, and the reason that's important is that if you're trying to convict Trump of anything, he took an oath to protect the country. He's the CEO of the federal government. So during the actual most heinous act during the riot, he refused to send in help to assist them, which is a criminal act for the president. That would be grounds by itself to have him removed from office. And so that's what that issue is about. And so now, on the other hand, Attorney Grimes, Trump attorney Michael Van Der Veen, when Attorney Sweeney was talking about when you don't have evidence, I saw this lawyer do a mass distortion. He was doing legal gymnastics during this hearing when he was showing video of everybody said, I'm going to fight, taking this total out of context. Not a single one of those folks who said we're going to go out and fight was leading a mob. Not a single one of those persons who said we're going to fight had anybody go out and try to break into somebody's house. Right. So the point I'm making is that, so the defense then says, Attorney Grimes, that we want to take over 100 depositions. I mean, it's laughable, so back to Attorney Sweeney point. Yeah, go ahead. So
that your page says what enabled him to pitch so long in the Negro League? He was one of the best pitchers in the country, Negro League, White League, Blue League, any league. He said, when the batter is looking over here, I throw it over there. When they're looking over there, I throw it over here. That's what the lawyers are doing now to us, folks. They're diverting this whole thing. But addressing Sweeney's question earlier about the world looking at us, when I used to travel, it was a pride that I had in selling our judicial system and boastful and feeling we are superior to all of this in our courts. When I stand in front of a jury, the first thing we used to say, all four of us, this is the best, it ain't perfect, but this is the best system there is in a governmental entity.
Yeah.
We can't say that no more, folks.
Absolutely, Will. Absolutely.
One will laugh at us and say, what? Your system is the best, or not the best. Let me finish, John. So we have crushed, destroyed that image of this democracy, of this country. Nate, if these people come back with not guilty or not a guilty verdict here. So that's what I see as the international view, John Sweeney, that the people are going to come away with now. We no longer can boast of being the best.
Yeah, I agree with you, Milton. I traveled the world also. I've lectured in 3 years ago now in Hanoi, Vietnam, on the virtues of the American justice system. I lectured in Barcelona, Spain 2 years ago on the same subject, how we are the beacon, our system is the beacon to the world of fairness. We can't say that unless he is convicted here. But let me just say this, and I'll turn it back over to Nathaniel. I read an article early this morning. I've been up since like 4 o'clock in the New York Times. I read at least 5 newspapers a day. And the article said that if we don't get him here, he is going to be criminally prosecuted in New York for fraud, tax issues. He's being investigated in the district attorney for inciting a riot, even if he's acquitted or whatever the term is in these impeachment proceedings. And of course, they're looking at him in Georgia. So he's not out of the woods. This is not a real criminal proceeding. He really is going to start sweating if and when they bring criminal proceedings against Trump. And I read that there is a sharp young African-American female district attorney in Atlanta who is spearheading this investigation into Trump in the in his attempt to overturn the election down there. So he's not in the clear, even though the fix is in on this impeachment thing.
Her witness, who's the Secretary of State down there who received that call, just happened to take that phone call where he's saying, I need 11,780 votes because I lost by 1. So I need 1 more than what I lost by. And if you don't get them for me, you're going to be charged with a crime. That is, come on, folks. I mean, she's got a clear-cut slam dunk. I won't say slam dunk. She's got a strong case. I've seen her at a press conference before, and she's very thorough. She's very mild-mannered, and she uses her by PowerPoints and her displays and her evidence, and she ties it up and puts a bow on it.
Okay, we're going to at this time, Milton, we're going to take a short 3-minute break. So callers hold the line, and we'll continue our discussion in about 3 minutes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
What's going on, Nate? We don't have time to take no breaks in this thing, boy.
Okay.
I think we're still on.
We got the answer for you. Jimenez Mr. Discount Home Store. Everything you need for your home that you find at those big name retailers, Jimenez Mr. Discount has at a much lower price.
Here's the problem.
Their oil space heater special, only $20.
The case in Atlanta has some problems. And let me tell you what I see.
6425 English Avenue location.
Based on the video and the audio, there was not evidence to indict Trump back in January. So Fannie took office. She beat her former boss, who indicted a police officer. What concerned me is that she got rid of those cases. She tried to get rid of the cases where he had indicted the officers for killing the black guy there in Atlanta. I'm concerned about that. So she also suspended the grand jury for 2 months.
For all your home needs.
I'm concerned about that. So
for your business.
I was concerned that Trump was not indicted back in January. I'm concerned about the fact that she stopped the grand jury for 2 months. And I'm concerned that she was very negative about the prior prosecutor that she worked for 20 years, saying that he indicted the officers too fast. I was thinking to myself, there's no evidence to have indicted Trump already.
Well,
Texting privacy technology and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls recurring automated text marketing messages.
Hey, Milton, you lost your sound.
Card debt and are struggling to pay your bills during this pandemic, you must hear this message. There is a special program available right now that allows you to settle your credit card debt for a fraction of what you owe. That's right. Millions of jobs have been lost due to the virus, overwhelming Americans with credit card debt. At JetBlue, we help you qualify for a program that literally wipes out a large portion of what you owe. Just text NEW to 323232 to see how much credit card relief you qualify for. Text NEW to 323232 and we can absolutely settle your credit card debt for a fraction of what you owe. Credit card companies won't tell you about this. Text NEW to 323232 and virtually eliminate your debt faster than you ever thought possible. You can qualify for a low monthly payment that will make you smile again. This program is so good, we even guarantee your success. Text NEW to 323232 to see if you qualify. Text the word NEW to 323232. Text NEW to 323232.
Hey, we're the Campbells. This Valentine's Day, make a date with TV One and fall in love all over again with these classic movies.
Mahogany with the legendary Diana Ross.
Then Carmen Jones with the one and only Dorothy Dandridge.
Okay.
And finally, Diane Carroll.
Now, for our YouTube viewers,
This Black History Month as we represent Black love.
what's important is that we pay close attention to the evidence that's being presented in the prosecution of this case. The tenant, okay, we're back live on the radio station now, and I think we stopped on Attorney Banks. Was getting ready to make a comment, as I recall.
Thank you. His own defense attorneys, you'll recall last week, in weekly arguing that the Constitution requires that a president must actually be in office to be impeached. He stated that the former president can be criminally prosecuted. You know, and I can just imagine what the former president must have been thinking. I wish I was a fly on the wall to see how he reacted to that comment. And as John stated, there are actions, civil and otherwise, across the nation that, as you stated, John, he's going to be sweating a lot. We've got the actions pending in New York, Atlanta, as you stated. And we've been talking about the various causes of action that can be brought. Milton has been talking to us about theories of vicarious liability, and we have precedent for that, which we've talked about in earlier shows.
And one other thing I need to point out, I forgot to mention, when Attorney Graham mentioned this issue about voting to call witnesses, there was one senator who is just mind-boggling. He's doing political gymnastics, Lindsey Graham. We had Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins of Maine, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, who we knew was going to vote to move forward on this matter. But the surprising fifth senator was Lindsey Graham that voted to call witnesses. Now, the reason that's a shocker, this senator has lost his moral compass, in my opinion. He has done everything to suck up to the former president. Initially, he called him a racist. He called him an idiot. He called him a fool. He called him everything. Then all of a sudden, he started playing golf with him. Not that I'm hating on golf, but he all of a sudden then started supporting him. And so now I don't know what to make of him anymore. I'm trying to figure out, what is this guy doing?
Lindsey Graham?
Yeah.
I think this is all for show. I think the fix is in from the beginning. I don't think they're going to get the supermajority, 17 votes necessary. I think Lindsey Graham is trying to show America and the world, at least we're looking at all sides of things. I think this is for show. And let me just say this, that anybody who does trial work knows that the outcome of the case is going to be based on the choir to whom you are preaching. And we know that we have senators that are very loyal to the president. That's why the fix is in on this thing. But when you get some of those jurors in New York, in DC, in Atlanta, if cases are brought there, you're going to see African Americans on the veneer in Georgia, in DC, in New York, and he's going to have to be there. You can't do it in absentia. I would think he's going to have to be there for his trial because he's going to be arrested, and he'll make bail and he'll have to show up for his trial. When he's sitting there with his counsel and he's looking over there to his right or left, wherever the jury box is, and sees those African Americans, 5 or 6 African Americans, 7 or 8 African Americans on a 12 jury panel in DC or in Atlanta, he's going to start sweating.
Okay, let's take a couple callers, producers. We got a bunch of questions for our distinguished panel. Okay, let's take the first caller.
Hey, yes, this is Antonio Liscombe. I got a question that's kind of off subject, and I do apologize. I know you guys have talked about some extremely important stuff. However, one of the things that I'm hurting about is the homicides that's happening here in Indianapolis. Just got off the phone with a young man that's hopeless. He cut his ankle bracelet off, and I've seen him, actually met him at the gas station. He had AK-47s where he started spraying the place, and I talked him down. But I'm wondering, is there a possible way that I could get with you? He wants to turn himself in, but he's got kids on the way, and he's trying to figure out how he can work something out. And I'm really in need of some legal assistance with helping some of these guys who are coming my way who feel hopeless. They're in a decision making, probably will commit some more homicides and stuff, but they just need that mentoring piece. Is there any way maybe I could call your office and get with you about that?
Well, I'm not a criminal lawyer, but have you run for any political office or anything whereby you were trying to advance these issues?
Yeah, I ran for city council, District 17, which has the largest homicide rate in it in all the districts, trying to do something about this. But, it really, I'm not really even making it about me. My heart is hurt because I see these young men walking around with these automatic weapons. And one guy, this young man was going to shoot the guy because he said what's up to him.
Well, tell you what, I apologize. Here's what I think you should do. If you see some young man walk around with an automatic weapon, call the police department. That person is probably committing criminal offenses. The Second Amendment gives you a right to carry a weapon, but in Indianapolis, if you see minors with guns like that, you need to alert the police department. It's a police matter, and we have a duty to, if we see something, say something, and that's what we do, and that's the biggest deterrent. So I thank you for your call.
May I share something with this caller, Nate?
Yes.
Yeah. In today's paper, the LA Times, it's reported that in today's LA Times that the homicide rate in Los Angeles in 1 month exceeded the homicide rate last year by over 100%. I think it was 60 or 50 murders in the, as compared to last year was like 20 or so. It's a phenomenon. They're talking about implementing the stop tactic again, of stopping vehicles that they feel are suspicious in South Central is where that's going to be implemented. Again, that's going to be profile stops. So there's a balance here that we have to make about the increase in homicide and the guns on the street and our rights as human beings, our constitutional rights, if there is such a thing. So I share in this young man's concern, and I honestly have picked up the third one went away, murder cases in the last 45 days, and there is a problem. There is a problem. I don't know if it's the pandemic and being shut up, or if there's a problem.
Well, we'll do a show about that later, but let's take William. Will, you got comments for us, sir?
How you doing, Mr. Lee?
Doing great. I hope you stay safe, sir. What kind of question you have for us today, sir?
I got a question about this insurrection that happened in Washington. If Trump was responsible for causing this, could the city District of Columbia bring him up on charges? That was the question that I wanted to know. For the damages and the homicide and for the police coverage. Could he be charged with anything, brought up on charges, or made to pay for the damages that were caused?
My distinguished guest, could you guys answer that?
I say yes. I say that the District of Columbia have jurisdiction over crimes that occur in its venue or in its jurisdiction, and Donald Trump committed crimes on January the 6th, 2021. So I think they can charge him.
I agree with that, and I was just thinking, I'm glad the caller surfaced this question, because we need to follow, the facts and the evidence here in terms of what actually happened in D.C., because I remember seeing that Mayor Bowser had called for additional law enforcement and backup, and there was a delay in getting the National Guard and other law enforcement backup during the insurrection. So I want all of those facts to be established. And I think that evidence could well, lead to determination that there might have been intentional delays.
Well, that caller raised an important question, and here's the legal analysis. As we speak today, there was a press release issued, as we're speaking now, by the Washington, D.C. District Attorney's Office. The district attorney in D.C. is a gentleman named Carl Racine. And what they're doing, they're deliberating whether or not the D.C. Attorney General Office can charge the former president with felonies. Remember that we did not just have a riot, we had people that got killed. And so the question is, they're trying to determine whether or not they had a legal authority, because D.C. has a myriad of legal entities. You got the federal government and the federal government and the federal government. There's all types of federal governments in D.C. You have the Trump federal government, and then you have the D.C. city. And so they have some statute, and they're trying to ascertain whether or not their local authority give them the legal authority to charge him with felonies for crimes committed at the Congress. And the Congress is normally controlled by the presidential detail in the House and Senate. And so that's the legal issue. And they should be coming out with an opinion on this, look like within the next 7 days. And the reason that's important is that they obviously have enough evidence now to charge you with something, but they're trying to determine whether or not they have the legal authority to see whether or not they can prosecute him under the D.C. law, because the most heinous crime was committed inside of Congress. And that's what the issue is. And I agree with my distinguished guest. I think that they should. My brief reading of the law suggests that they can, but I don't know. I'm not a D.C. lawyer, and I'm not admitted to practice there, but I think that they're right. I think ultimately they're going to come to the same conclusion.
Yeah,
and we can take the next caller real quickly before our guest respond. Okay, caller, you have a question for us today?
Yes, it's Brendan Monteffi. How you doing?
Doing great, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hear you well.
I had a little question for you guys. We saw a decision in Kenosha County this week from Judge Bruce Schroeder, who rejected to issue a new arrest warrant for Kyle Rittenhouse and he also declined to increase the bail. But in a move that most legal scholars and prosecutors say is highly unusual, even the prosecutors did, he refused to give the address to where Kyle Rittenhouse is living to the prosecution. And according to the prosecution, that the defense never offered any proof that Kyle was supposedly being threatened or that his life was being threatened. They never offered any evidence that he was under threat and like that. But Judge Bruce Schroeder, whom people in the area say has had a contentious relationship, denied giving the prosecutor the address of the defendant. How unlikely is that? And how, I mean, we talk about the trueness of the justice system, it just slaps in the face of what every black person sees and hears that may not have committed a crime or maybe questionable circumstances, that a judge, a sitting judge, denies the prosecution the legal address, which should be public record, to where, even if you want to see it, the prosecution should have it, shouldn't it? And how unlikely is that, and what does that say about the system? And thanks for taking my call.
Well, okay, let me have my distinguished West. The caller raised some legitimate concern. Kyle Rittenhouse, who murdered two people during a protest with an automatic weapon, he waved the weapon. The police saw him. They did not arrest him. Subsequently, he was identified and arrested, but he was given bail for murdering two people. And the caller concern is this, that the criminal defendant who's released on bail has never provided an address where he actually lived. He lives in Illinois. He committed a crime in Wisconsin, and the defendant did not provide an address. So the prosecutor is upset, according to the caller, because he did not, even today, give his correct address. Okay, panel, what do you think about that?
That's a misstatement or misinformation to the court. He could be brought into court and reprimanded or remanded for that and provide the accurate information. I've never had a case where a defendant was able to give false information to the court and not have a consequence for that.
Well, he
simple. He doesn't have.
Go ahead, Milton.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just coming to me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you could please go ahead.
Okay. He doesn't have immunity from prosecution, nor does he have a secrecy protection that he can hide from the authorities and the public. It is times when you have to put witnesses in protective custody. I understand that, but it is not up to an accused person to decide he's not going to give information as to where he can be found by law enforcement or the prosecution. That's not accepted.
This is just another example of, the two systems of criminal justice here in the United States. And this gentleman violated his bail. He claimed he moved due to death threats. And so I believe the judge has the address at this point, and I'm not sure whether or not that address is going to be provided to the other attorneys. But this is an example, of clear, unequal treatment in the justice system. If this had been a African-American young man who, flagrantly was walking down the streets of Kenosha with an AK, 47, assault rifle, query as to whether or not we'd be having a conversation about the life of that individual.
With that information, then I will put this caveat. If he has a fear for his life and they have presented that to the court, to the judge, and the judge accepts that, then he is entitled to be in secrecy. If the judge has the address, if he's the keeper of the address, and there's
the judge
of the
does have the address.
Okay, then that's the situation. I've had one situation like that in my life, dealing with a client who alleged that he was being threatened by the probation department, and we wanted to keep his access secret from law enforcement and the probation department and go to the judge and request that. That's a special situation.
Well, wait a second. Let's put this in context, what I call a talk about, so that I honestly know how severe this matter is. Kyle Rittenhauser was a 17-year-old that possessed automatic weapons, weapons of mass destruction. He went from Illinois, where he lived, to Kenosha, Wisconsin. When he got in Kenosha, Wisconsin, he shot and killed not one, but two people. In addition to murdering two people, he wounded a third person. And after he committed those crimes, he wasn't arrested. He was eventually charged sometime later, but he was released on a $2 million bail. Now, when he was arrested, there was a fundraising that raised millions of dollars for his defense. Because he had murdered people as a part of the protest, he was able to become a celebrity and raise millions of dollars. And so the problem is that we had an individual that committed the ultimate crimes. He's walking the street. He's out drinking in bars. He doesn't give an address to the prosecutor. And I was disturbed, and I understand why this caller was disturbed by that. Also, when Attorney Graham, you talked earlier, and Attorney Sweeney, when you talked about the fact that America's democracy, as lawyers, we stand before the jury. We used to say that this is the best justice system in the whole world. We teach seminars to talk about how great our justice system is. But now we see a radical departure. This does not pass the smell test. Normally when you commit a murder of an individual, it's very difficult to get bail. But when you commit mass murders, you get bail. I just don't see the legal legs of that. I've not seen that before. I've not seen people that is a mass murderer get bail.
Well, you are entitled to bail on most murders. Special circumstances, death penalty cases, you are not entitled to bail in California. And the fact that he bailed out on a $2 million bail doesn't surprise me these days, because Dylan Roof, who committed the ultimate multiple murders when he went into Mother Emanuel African-American Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, and murdered Clementa Pinckney, the pastor, who's also a state representative. And within a couple of weeks, he had raised well into the six figures for his defense through GoFundMe, through racists and Klans people and Oath Keepers and those right-wing militia groups. So it doesn't surprise me that this guy in Kenosha, the Kenosha killer, raised $2 million for bail.
Okay, at this time, callers, we're going to take a 2.5 minute break to hear some commercials, and we'll return back shortly. Having said that, I was disturbed when I saw the printout who paid this bail. They posted who was giving this guy money. And it always concerns me when we have these killings and all of a sudden people are coming to their defense like that. I believe very strongly when we have victims who are victims of tragedies, I think it's a good idea to help them out. But now we're going too far. We want to help out the person who's killing people in mass casualty. I mean, it's almost like this, we're losing our way as a country.
Yeah, I pose another question. Maybe we can bring it back up when we get back to the on the air after the commercials. But if Donald Trump is tried and convicted, he is so dangerous that he could call on his people to recreate what happened at the Capitol in any state that that he has these followers in. I mean, I don't think that he's going to sit by, or they're going to sit by idly if he's convicted and hauled away in chains.
I think we pose a serious risk, though, to our freedom, Nate, if we start regulating who can defend themselves and who can support the defense of a person. Whether or not I agree with their philosophy or what they've done or not, I think that the right to a defense is crucial for all of us.
Absolutely.
We as a people were victims of racism and prejudice about the right of a defense. So I think that's a slippery slope if you start going down that slope as to who can raise funds and who can contribute to the defense of another person.
I agree.
Well, my problem though is that I'm struck by the fact that Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, apparently gave a substantial amount of money, and so they're not giving money because the killer deserves it. They're giving money because he is murdering people who they have a political difference with. So I have a problem with that. You know, there's a difference between somebody go out and commit a crime and you have that person out. People do that every day. But when you're doing it to make a political statement that you're supporting what amount to domestic terrorism, I have a problem with that.
Nate, can I change the subject a minute?
Sure.
I'll accept that. Yesterday, I was moved more by the awarding to Eugene Goodman of the gold medal from Congress, the bravery, whatever the medal is called. It moved me because there again, we have us as a people being represented, protecting them. People who many of them don't give a do about us, could care less about our freedom and our rights. But here you have this brother risking his life to protect Romney and others and Pence. And it hit me like, again, we are the soldiers of this democracy. It comes out. We had to fight in World War I and II to be accepted as soldiers. Back in the Civil War, the 54th Massachusetts Brigade, they were the ex-slaves and the runaways and the African-American soldiers that the Union soldiers did not want to fight with because they didn't think they were brave and they thought they would serve the Union Army better by serving them meals and washing their clothes and wiping their butts. These men were so determined to prove that they were worthy of dying for this country that they attacked a fort, and I forget the name of the fort, when it was known that it was impregnable, that this fort could not be overtaken. They did a movie, Denzel Washington did a movie back in the 80s, Glory. They attacked this fort a week before. The Union Army had lost 300 soldiers and it only killed 12 Confederates. So the week later, they were led by their captain, who was a white man, into attacking this fort in an area about wide as a street, wider. And they killed 1,700 of those soldiers that day. And they only, I think, killed 200 Confederates. But it was a slaughter because they wanted to prove to the Union Army that they had the courage to fight for this country. So it just is sad to me that we are treated like we are treated in light of the sacrifices we've made throughout history. I just want to.
One of the things, I got a question on that, Milton. The Congressional Gold Medal, somebody asked about that. The Congressional Gold Medal is 90% gold and worth close to $4,000 just for
give them $1 million.
Yeah, but it's a big deal because it's rarely, if ever, given. And so for Eugene Goodman, who saved so many lives that day, I wish there were something else they could give him. Maybe we should have had a fundraiser for that guy. If they could raise $2 million for a mass murder, and this is the guy that I would raise money for.
And he served in Iraq. He served in Iraq before this. You know, it just is painful to me. I'm not kidding, man. I was in tears.
Well, I think you were bringing that up because I think that Eugene Goodman, he is a gentleman that makes us all proud because he saved the life even of people that maybe is not voting for his interests every day in Congress. You know, and I really thank him for his service.
You know, as you speak about our hero, Mr. Goodman, and we should all be thinking about how do we lift up the real heroes, you know, in our nation. I was thinking about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Right.
And these were African-American military pilots, as you know, both fighter and bomber pilots. And they fought in World War II. And they risked their lives protecting, you know, white bomber pilots. And then after the war, they came back and were treated just so unfairly. And, you know, this again is, you know, part of our history. When we talk about unequal treatment, were Emmett Till's, I recall that Emmett Till's murderers were acquitted. You know, so this is the long, sordid history that we have here in America.
Yeah, it was quite a moving feeling for me. And I just want to share that with you guys.
Well, going forward, my expert panel, what additional evidence, if any, would you like to see? Because it's one thing that we need to maybe have our newspaper correct here. Based on the vote, the former president would have a majority of the senator vote that he's guilty. Last time the Republican controlled the legislature, it was 52 not guilty, 48 guilty. Well, this time it looks like it's going to be 55, 56, 57 guilty, and somewhere in the 40s, maybe 43 not guilty. So what should the verdict say? Obviously, the majority of people think he's guilty. Should they come out and say he's not guilty, or just simply say that they did not vote to remove him? What should the verdict actually read?
Well, 17 votes in addition to 50, so they need 67 votes for guilty, right?
That's 2/3, correct?
It's 2/3 to sustain the impeachment resolution. But the question is, in America, well, Milton, in America, Attorney Grant, in America, if you're going to have 56, 57 people say that he's guilty, what should the verdict be?
It's not guilty if you don't reach the 67. As simple as that. That's our math. That's what we decided. That's the number that we need to get a guilty verdict. That's it.
That's
so
the process.
If it's 66, he's not guilty. Not that he's innocent, but he's not guilty. So there's a difference in innocence and guilt and not guilty. He's not being called or determined to be innocent. He's just not voted guilty because you didn't reach the count of 60.
Well, in most states, you need a unanimous verdict for guilt or not guilty in a criminal case. Obviously, different, you know, these proceedings, impeachment proceedings. But go on, Milton. You were going to say something.
I'm just going to try to be nerdy and say, except Oregon and Louisiana, you only need a 10-2 vote for guilty.
Yeah, that's it. In most cases, yeah. In most states, that's it. Yeah.
Right, but 67% is almost like a civil verdict, you know, by preponderance. But that's the count. That's the determination. I can't see how those other 34, if it was 66 senators, could look in the mirror tomorrow morning or whenever they make their decision and say, I'm a righteous person and I love my grandkids and I love my family and be believed. They ain't. I don't.
But Milton, grandkids, family are irrelevant. This is love for the country. Their duty is first and foremost to the country, and it does such harm.
Let me make one quick announcement. For all our listeners today, our show ends in 1 minute, and so you could continue our discussion on YouTube. Go to Nathaniel Lee and our show on YouTube. Just Google it real quickly because we're going to continue part of the discussion about this because our show ends in about 30 seconds. So thank you for listening on WTOC, and now switch over to YouTube or Facebook. Thank you. Now, gentlemen, what were you saying?
I agree with John Sweeney's broader sweep of what this verdict means. I'm just saying, as a family man, as a grandfather, John, and as a father, I couldn't look myself in the face, man, if I didn't do the right thing. I just can't do that. You understand? And that's why I'm bothered with, how can you believe anything these people say and do? I don't believe Lindsey Graham if he says daytime, man, it's mid-noon. I'd have to. Yeah.
But they're being short-sighted and selfish in protecting their own careers and interests and not looking out for the good of the nation. Because if we can acquit, so to speak, the president in the face of this overwhelming mountain of evidence, it does harm to the country. That's what it does.
Yes, and we're witnessing one party or many that are sitting in the Senate that are putting their personal agenda and power, frankly, above our democracy, and at any cost, And so we looked at an attempted coup d'etat. I mean, they witnessed that too. I just don't see how you justify that. But this is what potentially tyranny looks like. You politicize our institutions, you demonize the press, you put mistrust in one of the most fundamental tenets of our democracy, and that's free and fair elections. You spew information. And so all of these have just been blatant attacks on the rule of law, on our American system of justice and jurisprudence in this nation. And does it really net down, gentlemen, in your opinion, to just power?
Hey, one quick thing. Okay.
Personal agenda?
Yeah, that's a good point. One quick thing I need to point out to Attorney Grimes. The Constitution gives the House of Representatives powers to draft articles of impeachment for our listeners, but the Senate has the sole power to try impeachment. Now, here's the key. No person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present, right? So he could be guilty by majority vote, but not convicted on the impeachment article. But the question that our YouTube audience want to know, do you think if Trump is criminally charged, will the U.S. Marshal arrest him?
They should.
That would be the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now he may arrange his surrender and be booked in private and photographed, and then he could bail out. But he will definitely be arrested, be it private or in a arranged surrender. But he will definitely be arrested as part of the process. And it may not be United States Marshal. It may be local officials if they bring local charges in D.C. or I'm sorry, in Atlanta or New York.
It's ironic that this Congress was so determined to overcome and undo the things that the previous president did, that they support this man. The previous president was probably one of the best presidents this country has ever seen, and surely was one of the most popular and respected throughout the world. And now we got this.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Well, the good news is that we no longer have this headache, and that's a good way to conclude our show, because now this headache hopefully will be over in the next couple of weeks. I concur with you that it's unlikely that we're going to have the 67 vote necessary to convict Donald Trump of the articles of impeachment, but there's going to be a majority of people that says that he's guilty. So the press should say not convicted, but they shouldn't say not guilty because you have a majority vote. The legal standard here is convicted and not the guilty verdict, which is kind of, we're normally doing jury trial, you're guilty or not guilty. Here, you're convicted or not convicted on the impeachment article. So I think that's an important legal distinction because obviously it looked like there's going to be 55, 56 people say that he's actually guilty of the articles that's charged. But in any event, I'd like to thank each and every one of the people that participate in our YouTube. And I'd like to thank our impressive legal panel, Attorney Grimes, Attorney Sweeney, and Attorney Banks. Thank you, each and every one of you. And have a blessed day, everyone.
Bye, Vanita.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Bye.